Vimino, who joins me now. Hello, Florence.
Hello.
So the French budget is set to be unveiled later today, and that's getting a lot of attention in the French press.
That's right. In the face of the stagnant economy and record unemployment, it's set to be France's toughest budget, and it's on the front page of Les Echos, the business daily today. It says that Hollande imposes a historical fiscal shock to France's wealthiest because the biggest part of the government's fiscal plan is to increase taxes by 27 billion euros, and France's wealthiest are going to bear the biggest brunt of that. Now, in their editorial, Les Echos says that the 2013 budget is one that French people aren't likely to forget. It applauds the goals of the government to bring public deficit back to 3% of GDP by 2013, but it says that the means that the government has chosen are completely inappropriate, actually. It says that France's biggest problem is that we spend too much and our taxes are too high. And so the historic mistake that Hollande is making is to increase taxes without cutting spending enough, because the government does plan to cut spending by 10 billion euros, but according to Les Echos, that's not enough. Now, according to Les Echos, increasing taxes like that has never brought on a period of growth. Also, taxing the wealthy doesn't necessarily mean that France's poor are going to get richer. What is needed, according to Les Echos, is structural reform and real cuts in spending.
Okay, well, the Prime Minister, Jean-Marc Ayrault, did give an interview on TV yesterday to try and explain the ins and outs of the fiscal plan that the government's got.
That's right. He's on the cover of Le Figaro here. Ayrault présente sa facture fiscale. So Ayrault presents his fiscal bill. He appeared on the channel France 2, and he justified why he wants to increase taxes by 27 billion euros. And he tried to reassure French people. He said that 9 out of 10 of them won't even feel the pinch of the tax increase. He said, once again, that France's wealthy are the ones that are really gonna feel the pinch of the belt tightening. Now, in their editorial, Le Figaro comes back on the spending cuts, and it says that the crisis is going to be long and arduous, and so the government, Ayrault's government, needs to go even further. They need to cut spending even more, and according to this article, he needs to convince his party to stop its, quote, uncontrollable public spending. Now, this is likely going to be an unpopular decision, but Le Figaro says the crisis is going to be really long, you're going to be unpopular, so why wait? And if you're going to be unpopular, you might as well be unpopular for the right reasons.
Okay, well, sticking with the budget, Le Parisien is taking a closer look at that so-called 3% rule for reining in the public deficit.
That's right. Here it is on the cover. Et si la règle des 3% était fantaisiste? What if this 3% rule was a complete fluke, a fantasy, a far-fetched idea? And Le Parisien, aujourd'hui en France, looks back at the history. How did we just come up with this 3% rule? And why 3%? Now, 3% is a round number. It's easy to remember. It's thrown around by politicians as if it were the gospel. It has a direct impact on our everyday life. But where does it come from? So there's a funny cartoon in Le Parisien which points out just how little we actually know about where it comes from. You see a statue of the 3%, and there's one guy that says, "What is that exactly?" And the other guy says, "Shh, it's abstract art, it's bound to be good." So Le Parisien looks back at history. Where did this come from? It turns out that this idea, the 3%, was set up in 1981 in France, and since then it now dictates Europe's economic decisions, according to Le Parisien. They interview this man right here, Guy Abbé. He was working for the Ministry of Finance at the time, and he invented 3% one evening in June 1981. According to him, he just scribbled the figure on the corner of a table. It wasn't based on any economic theory. It was just that the president at the time, François Mitterrand, he needed something that sounded economic for his ministers so that they would stop spending so much. So that's how the very basis of France's budget policy came about. Kind of makes you wonder how other rules that we think are written in stone come about.
Also come about as well, definitely. Appropriate that it was a French economist that came up with it. Moving on, though, to something completely different now. 2 French men have managed to make it around the world for a total travel cost of 250 euros.
It makes you dream, doesn't it? It's also in Le Parisien today. Antonin, Guy, and Xavier Degon, they traveled 25,000 kilometers over 7 months through 18 countries in an electric car. That's how they did it for so cheap. They had to charge up every 120 to 150 kilometers, but they just asked locals if they could plug in. So it cost them 250 euros, and Le Parisien calls it an electric trip around the world.
Wow, well, sounds fascinating. Thank you very much indeed, Florence, for that look at today's French newspapers. Let's get a reminder now of our top story here on France 24.